Let us try to look at how we can relate two tables together. Now I have two tables. One is called as an employee table. Now this employee table contains fields, and these fields include the employee ID. So the employee ID is there. Let me make it as emp ID. There is one field emp ID, and I have this employee name, which I am not really interested in, and the next field is department ID. So I have this department ID in this particular table. Now if I look at the table which is below here, this table contains this is the department table, and this table also contains the department ID, that is the DEPT ID, and also the name of the department. Now I would like to connect the department ID which is there, maybe let's say 555, which is here, to a value which is available in this particular record. So how do I establish a relationship? That means to say that whatever values which are here in this particular table, only these values must appear in the department ID. So that means to say that if I want to know what is the name of the department, I have this department number 555 over here, let's say, but I don't know what is the name of the department. That detail is available in the other table. So by looking at this 555 number over here, I have to go to the other table to find the details of the department. So how do I relate the two tables together in Oracle? The way in which we do it is using the foreign key. So we say that this particular values are taken from the foreign table. So it is taken from the other table or the foreign table. So these values are referencing some values which are there in other table or in other foreign table. So this relationship is the foreign key relationship. So these values are referencing the foreign values. Now one important thing about them is, suppose if there are two records are there. Suppose if you find two records in this table, both are having the value 555, then this is going to create a confusion from the referencing table as to whether it is referring to this one or whether it is referring to the other table. So the values which are there in this field being referenced must be unique. How do you get something as unique? We know very well that to create something as a unique field, we will have to use the primary key or unique and non-null option. So I'm going to use this one as the primary key. So my values in this field is unique. I can also make this one as primary key. This is not really required because I assume that all the employee IDs are unique. Now what I want to do is I want to say that employee ID in the employee table is referencing this field. How do I do that thing? There are two ways in which you can do it. You can directly say a constraint. You can directly put a column level constraint saying that this references the table department. Okay. It references the department table. Inside that department table, there is a field called as department ID. This way you can do it. So this references the department ID. So you can notice our this is the table name, department table, and within department table it references the department ID. That is what is the connection. Let me try to create this table now. So I go here to my Oracle, and I'm going to create this table first. So remember, I said that department table it references the department table and department ID. Now you notice that I have not yet created anything, both the table. Hopefully I don't have those tables in my database. Now I am trying to create a table in which I am saying that there is a department table. Inside that department table there is a department ID, and I am going to refer that. Now since I have not created it, now when I run this particular query, you will okay, so I already have it, sorry about that. Now this is not the error, that is what I told you. I may have the same table, that is the problem. Okay, so because I use this, so I'm going to drop that table, and if it is the department is there, then also I will drop that both of them, so that I don't have those tables. So this is a clear slate now, so I don't have both of them now. But then I try to run it. Now it just says that the table or view does not exist. So which table or view does not exist? I am saying that I am referencing the department ID. Now it just says that where is that department ID? You are saying that there is one table that has a lot of things inside it. Where is that table? It is asking that. So where is this table? So what I am supposed to do is I am supposed to create this table first. The one that is being referenced, that table has to be created first. So let me try to create this table and then run it. So what is, let me try one more time. Okay, department. Let's see whether I have something which is not proper. Let me check. Okay, so I have create table department ID, department name, and only this much. Okay, I'm sorry, I have one extra column there, one extra comma there, so sometimes it does create a problem. Okay, let's do, and let's run it, and that this table has been created for me. Now I'm going to create the table. Remember, this table is already there. If I want to describe this table, describe department, you will notice that that table is there. The table contains all the content. So two values are there. As of now, there are no data is there. Now if I say select star from department, if I do this one, so if I say select star from department, let me highlight and show it to you. Okay, so let's go here and let's yeah, so that's it. So if I say select star from department and then run it, you notice that there is no data found. Now I'm going to reference this table. Now this table is already there in the database. Now I can reference this particular table. Now if I go there, let's go to the table, and if I go here and then if I create this table is also created. Now I can also describe this table, describe employee, and if I run it, you notice that the table has everything in it. Okay, and there is no data in it. Why I am showing there is no data in it? Remember, when you create the table, the reference table must be there is no need that the data must be there, but the table should be there, the structure should be there. Now you notice that there is no data form. Now if I just go to the object browser here, and if I search for my employee table, and if I look at this employee table, now you will notice that if you look at the constraint here, if you look at here, you will notice that there is a foreign constraint. So you notice that there is a foreign constraint. This is the name of the constraint, which is not good to look at, but that is the constraint name that it has given, and it just says that it is trying to refer to the some other table. So that is what it is trying to show there. Okay, so this is a foreign key constraint. Okay, you can enable, disable, or you can do anything with that. What is important over here is these two tables that I am trying to create. This table, the table being referenced, has to be created first, and then the one that is trying to refer, because when this table is being created, this thing must already be there in the database. If this table is not there in the database, then the Oracle will not create it. Now very important thing, should I just create the same name here? So this department ID that I have given, is it required that it should be of the same type? The answer, the same name. The answer is no. I can say DID here. Okay, so what do I mean to say is, so if you look at here, I have given the department ID here and the department ID here. So these names are unique in this table also, in the employee table also, it is called as department ID. In the department table also, it is called as department ID. Should I use the same name as the reference table? This is the column name should be same. The answer is no. You can give any name. For example, I can say DID here, and because I said DID is a field here, it must be there. So that's very important. DID should be there in this one. So you notice now here a department ID was there in the one table. It is called as department ID. In the other table, it is called as DID. So these names need not be same. So in the this is called as a primary key table. So primary table, the value name is DID. In the reference table, it is called as department ID. It is, there is no constraint as such, they must be same. Only thing is, when you try to refer it, you say that is the field. So you can give any name to that. So can I create it? The answer is yes, sir. So before I do it, I have to drop the table which was there. So I'm going to just say drop table employee, and as well as the drop table department. Remember, very important thing, I will just show you what happens when you try to drop the table. Let me go to the SQL now, and I try to drop it. Now look at here, I try to drop this table. Remember, department table is being referenced by employee table. So you have this employee table here, which is now referring, there is no data. You notice that I have not added any data, but still it is getting referenced. Now this value, whatever value you are adding here, are being referenced in the employee table. Now can I just drop the department table? So when I try to drop this table, it just says that no, you have some reference. This table is being referenced. Now you cannot drop this table. So what do I mean by saying that is your department table which you had here, even though there is no data inside it, it is being referred or referenced by employee. So this is being referenced by employee. So if, because the employee's values are dependent on the values which are there in one of its column, you cannot drop it until and unless you break this relationship. So how can I break the relationship? I can drop that constraint. That way I can do it. Or I will drop the table first. So I'm going to drop the reference table first, and then I'm going to drop the department table. So if I drop the employee table, there is no problem. It drops it. After that, if I drop the department table, it's going to do it. Now let me create the department table. Remember, this time I have department ID as my ID here. I have it, I created it, and I am able to create it. So there is no problem. Now if I want, I can describe that. I'm going to just write it here so that every time I don't have to do this. Describe the employee, and I'm going to say select start from employees, just to show you that there is nothing inside it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other table also here, department and department, just to show you that there is nothing, no data inside here. So I'm going to just show you that there is nothing in here, and there is no data inside it. And also that is true for the other one also. If I go to the object browser here, just to show you the beautiful way of looking at it, and if I look at the constraint here, the constraint just says that it is trying to refer to the department ID. Did I drop to this employee table? Okay, it just says it is trying to refer to a column. Department ID was not the column. I created something else. Okay, this time it should have been shown as the ID there. That is being referenced. And if you can also see the dependency, so you notice that there is a dependency between this table and the department table. Okay, this particular table is not getting referenced. That means your employee table is not referenced by anyone, but your employee table is referencing the department table. So it just shows you that one. Also you can see the model. Now I think the model, if you notice that employee table gets its value from the department table. So this is what it's going to show. Now this is one way of doing the references. Now when you try to write the references directly as a column level constraint, you don't get that much of flexibility. So if you look at the constraint here, the constraint name is coming as DEPT and so on and so forth. It's not good. Now what if I want to write my own good way of constraint? You can write the row level constraint or the table level constraint by specifying the constraints separately. How do I do that thing? I can say constraint okay, name of the constraint, I'm going to say department ID foreign key FK. Okay, that's the name. And what is this? This is called as foreign key constraint. So it is the foreign key constraint. Which is the foreign key? Now you have to say in this there are so many fields are there. Which one is the foreign key? Is it salary is the foreign key? No. Employee ID is the foreign key? No. Department ID is the foreign key. So you have to mention that thing here. So department ID is my foreign key. Now the next part is what is it? Okay, which table it is referencing. Now the next question is same, references. Which is the table? References the department table. Okay, it references the department table, and inside this department table, which is the column that it is trying to refer? Inside that it is referencing DID. So that is how I'm going to say inside it. It is referencing department ID. So this is the constraint that I have put. Now this time I have put it in a very beautiful way. So foreign key, constraint foreign key, and so on. You can write it in a single line, but I have written it in 2 lines. Now I'm going to drop this table first. Let me go to the my familiar SQL prompt here, and first I'm going to drop that, and then I'm going to create the things. So I'm going to drop my table. First I'm going to drop where is my create table is there, and drop this table first, and then I'm going to recreate this table again, and you notice that the table is created and I can describe the table. That's not going to make much of a difference to you, and there are no records are there. That's also a good thing. Also, if I go to the SQL workshop here, and if you look at the SQL workshop now, if you look at the employee here, you will notice that if you look at the constraint here, I gave one constraint name, so it is not giving something of that type. So you notice that the constraint name is not a sys0 something, I think. Whatever name I gave, that is the constraint name it is giving. Otherwise it just gives you a random number, which is not a good way. So whenever we write the constraint, it is better you give a good constraint here, so that you can drop it easily if at all you really require it. Okay, so this is how you create a relationship between the two tables. Now let me go and let's look at some other things. Okay, so let's come back to the subject. So this is how you can create, you can relate two tables together. Now let's look at something called as subquery. A subquery is nothing but a query inside the other query, or a select statement inside one other select statement is called as a subquery. Now the select statement, so you have one select statement. Inside that select statement, if you put one more select statement, then this is called as a subquery. So subquery is a query inside the other query. So this inner query is called as the subquery. So that is the query that is there. Now whenever this query is executed, the inner query gets executed, its value is supplied to the outer query. So inner query gets executed first, and whatever value that inner query returns, that value is going to be used in the outer query. Now let's recall what we have done in our previous class. In our previous class, we have created a table called as student. So let's look at that table first. So I'm going to select everything from the student. So select star from my student. So let's look at this one. Select star from my student, and if you run it, if you run this particular thing, you will notice that there are some students are there. Now I want to find the average marks of all these students, and in the last class you are familiar, if at all you want to find the average marks, then what you are going to do is you are going to say average avg is the name of marks. So I am interested in the marks of the student, so I want to find the average of marks, and that is what I am interested in. Now I'm going to just run this query. So I get 487 point. Ignore all the decimal places that it is trying to show, but you get the value. Now I just want to know who has the marks, who is having marks greater than this average mark. So average mark is 487. Now I want to list all the students whose marks are above 487. How do I do that? So you know very well, if I run this average, I get 487. Now I want to find all those whose marks are greater than 487. How do I do it? First I need to find this value, that is 487. Then I have to run one more query and check whether the marks are greater than 487. So how do I do that thing? So I'm going to say select. I'm going to just use two number names there. First I'm going to use the name of the student and their marks, just for your reference. So their marks, from the student, and I'm going to say where, okay, marks are greater than 487. So why it is 487? Because you know very well, the 487 is the marks. Okay, so that is, so whatever marks which are greater than 487, I have to get it. So I get that. So okay, no problem about it. But now I want to combine this query. Instead of running this query separately and getting the value, I want to combine this with the other. So how do I do it? So I'm going to say select a name and marks from the student where marks is greater than, look at here, I put a parenthesis and then put this query. So this query which was there previously, which is giving this value, that value I'm going to put it. So you know very well, when you run this query, what answer you are going to get is 487. So I am using this 487 here and then using this value for the outer query. So this is called as the inner query and this one is the outer query. So I first run the inner query and then I use the value of the inner query to get the outer query. So if I run this, what I'm going to get? If I run this, I'm going to get the same value. So this is what is called as a sub-query. So you have a query that is inside an other query. So query inside the other query is called as a sub-query. So this is the concept of a sub-query. So let's look at the thing there. So you can use the sub-query option. I have used it in the where clause. You can use it in the having clause or from clause. So this is what you can do it. When you write the subquery, few things you must understand. One is the subquery must be enclosed in parentheses. Generally the subquery is written on the right hand side of the comparison operator, like the one that I have written here. This is the general case. It is not always. Generally you write it after the comparison operator. But that's the rule, but it's not that you are supposed to write it like that, but generally people write that thing. And there are two types of subqueries which are available. The queries that return single row and the queries that return multiple rows. So if you look at here in my example, the query that I have written returns one row. It just returns one row of value. Now you may get the query that may return more than one row. Okay, so what to do in that case? In that case, you have to go for different types of operators. So let's look at the notes first. So we have two types of queries, the query that returns single row and the query that returns two rows. So single row subqueries or multiple row subqueries are there. Whenever you are using single row, then we say that the query must be the single row, the operator that we are using is equal to greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to, this kind of operators we can use it. But when we have multiple rows being returned to us, we are using other operators like in, any, or. Any of these kind of operators can be used there. Okay, so let's look at the query here and let's look at the answer. Now let me run here. I think in my table I have only two departments here. Okay, I have PCM is there, PMCS is there, CBZ is there. Okay, now I want to find the students who are there in PCMC, PMCS and PCM. I want only those students who are there here. So first of all, how do I get their details? So to get whether the students are there in this one or not, so you can say select. Okay, the let's say select the names of the students. Let me say name, and just for your information I will also say combination from student where, okay, combination in, I'm going to use the operator in these values. So which are these values? You want PCM, okay, I want PMCS, and I want to find the CBZ. Let's say CBZ. Okay, so CBZ is okay. So CBZ. It's not double quote, single quote. Okay, so I have this many. So I'm going to just select it and just run it. So name, I think that is yes name was there. Let's see. Okay, this is not just a name, it is yes name. Okay, so let's look at that and just run it. So yeah, I got these many students. Now I want to find the average of these students. So how do I get that thing? Okay, so I want to find the average of students who are in either PCMC or PMCS or the other. So I want to first get this names list there, and then I want to use them. So first of all I will take the roll number here, just for I think the name I gave here is the roll number. Okay, this is the roll number. So I have this roll number here, roll number. I'll just take the roll numbers of the students who are there in this column. So let me run it. So I get the roll number of all the students, and corresponding to 101, 102, 103, 104, 107, I have to find 102, 103, 10 and so on. I have to find their average. So how do I do that thing? To find the average, you know that this is the statement, select star from the select average from the student, and where the condition is where the roll number that I am trying to use, I have to only use these roll numbers which you know, 102, 103 and so on, these roll numbers. So the roll number must be in this list. Which is this list? This is the list. So where the roll number, I have written it from here to here. So where the roll number is in this query, I can take this query outside, but it will go beyond the screen. That is why I am putting it here. So where the roll number is the one that I have selected previously. So this roll numbers, this list that I am getting it, just to show you, this list I am getting. The roll number must be among these. So roll number must be among these. So this where the roll number in this list. So that is what I am trying to do. So I run it. Let's see what is the answer I am going to get. It is 494. So you notice that now 494 is the average marks of only PCMC and PMCS and CVZ students. So now you notice that this particular query, it returns multiple rows, and when you have this multiple rows you can go for the in operator. So you have two operators there. You have two types, one is in and one is the or the greater than or less than symbol. So in is used when a particular row or when a particular subquery returns multiple rows. In the similarly to in, you can also use the other word, and that is any. So you can take the other word any. What is the meaning of saying any? Any means any one will be true and the other one is all. So any means if the matching is found with any one of them, if the match found with any one of them, then that is taken as the valid one. All means the match will be performed with all of them and then the values are being used up. Now let me take only let me first run it and just show you. Okay, I have this PCMC students, PMCS students. So one student has 380, the other student has 550 marks. So 380 is there, 550 is there. So this is the least one, I think. In PCMC I have one is 450 is there, other one is 430 is there. Now let me just write this one where the combination is equal to, I'm going to just say where the combination is equal to PCM. So I'm going to just run this query where the combination is equal to, so look at here, select, take this one, select a star from select roll number from the student, just for your kind information. I'm going to put the combination also and just run it. So you have a combination. Okay, let me run it now. So this is what you get it. Now I'm going to say where let me change the query, where the marks are, remember if you run this one, let me just run this marks here. This is a small thing, I'm trying to build that query. So let's look at this two marks. 450 is there, 530 is there. This is the one that I'm interested in. I don't want this combination, I just want the marks. So I run it, I get only the marks. Now I want to find all the students, or I want to find any student. You see, I'm interested in this marks only. I want to find any student whose marks is greater than these two marks, 450 and 530. Anybody whose marks is greater than 450 or 530. In other words, any student whose marks is greater than the PCMC student. I want to find it. So how do I find that thing? So I'm going to say where the marks is greater than, so I want to find the, let's say, yes name, and I'm going to just show you the marks also. Okay. So if you look at here, I'm going to get the student name and the marks, where the marks is greater than any, either this one or this one, so any of them. Okay, where the marks is greater than this one. So let me get it in one line. So what I'm trying to do is, where the marks must be greater than these two. So if I run it, I find all the students whose name is, if you want, I will also show their combination so that you can see it. I will take it to the next, I'll take that where clause to the next line. So I'm running the same query but just with the combination. Now you notice that PCMC student is also there. Any means anything, anybody whose marks is greater than. Now you notice here, if you look at this value, I think I can take this value and just copy this value can just keep this value here. Okay, and this run this star from student. Now let's you look at this one. PCMC student, there are 2 marks. I'm going to just show you these PCMC student. This PCMC student, you have 2 marks. PCM student, 450 is there and 530 is there. Look at the thing over here. So what it is trying to do? 560. Let me take this first one. 560. Compare it with any of them. So is it less than? Is it greater than? This is what I said. The greater than symbol is greater than. Is it greater than 450? Yes. One answer is enough. 550 is greater than 450. Yes, the answer is yes. 560 is it greater than 430? The if you look at this 560, it is there. Okay. 550 is it greater than? Yes. 530, how is it possible that it came here? 530, if you look at it, Gita, is 530 is not greater than 530. You notice that this 530 is not greater than 530. But what condition I said? I said any. Okay, it's not greater than 530, no doubt, but it is greater than 450. That is the meaning of saying any. There are 2 values are there. Any one, if it is greater, you just take that value. So that's the meaning of it. Any means if there are 5 values are there, if it is matching with any one of them, if the condition matches with any one of them, that's the end of it. We don't go and search for the other. So that's the meaning of saying any. Now 450, you notice that it didn't picked up here because 450 is not greater than, remember that, it is equal to. So don't say, okay, why didn't this 450 came into picture? It is not greater than, it's equal to. And definitely there are 2 values it is not trying to. 380 is ruled out, 490 is going to come. Identical to this, I have all. So I can put all here. So if I run this with the all, what answer I am going to get? Run it with the all, I get only 2 values here. So what is the matter? What is the problem here? Let's look at this one and then try to analyze what it is trying to show. Let me run it. I have cold, that is why I am not able to talk much, but still I am going to finish this off. Let's look at 450 here. So this is all. So start comparing 550. See, there are from PCMC there are 2 values are there. 450 is one value and next PCMC is 530. So you take 550, compare it to 450, it is greater. Compare it with the 530, it is greater. That is why it is selected. 560, you take it. Greater than 450, you take it. Greater than 530, you take it. Next, if you take any one of them, you take any one of them. 490, if you take 490 is greater than 450, but it is not greater than 530. All means both of them will be compared. It must be greater than this as well as this. All means everything. Any means any one value will be working. So that's all. In today's class, I have a cold. Sorry about that. We will meet again in the next class with a new topic.